Okay, so as we are starting the carving process, we are going to use our gouges, and they have these blades that we can change out, or you can just trade out your gouge with the person next to you. I do not want you guys untwisting this and changing out your own blades. If you need to switch a blade, please give it to me, or like I said, just look through the basket of blades to find the right size. Okay, so this is the U-shape blade, shaped like a U. It's really large. It's good for like a big area of background you need to carve out. This is the V shape. It's really good for straight lines. You will use this one the most because you have the most control with it. And this is the small detail tool, really good for small details. So you can use this for like inside that little flower would probably be good. And then you're also going to have a Sharpie by you, and that way you can do what I call the Sharpie test. So I already kind of carved out these lines right here, but I didn't go all the way to where they need to be. But what I can do is go close to the area I carved out with my Sharpie and just test out what it will look like when we go to ink it. And if you like it, you can leave it like this. If you don't like how it looks, you can carve a little bit more out. Okay, so I don't like how thin this line is right here, so I'll go back in with my V-shape tool and I'll just widen that a little bit more. So like I said, you do get a lot of control with the V-shape. You want to make sure you avoid your Sharpie lines at all costs. So I'm just going to go pretty slow, just around my Sharpie lines, and I'm going to twist my block as I go. And you should have a bench hook. I am just not using one. So I'm twisting my block, and I'm making sure to carve away from myself so I don't hurt myself. And typically you want this hand that you're not using with your gouge, you want it to be behind the gouge so that you don't accidentally, hit your finger with the gouge. So we're just turning our block and digging our gouge into our linoleum block around the outline. And then we will go to carve in the inside. Okay, so that little inside part right there, I can now go ahead and carve out, making sure that I go pretty slowly. So you don't need to carve that deep. People always think they need to carve a little bit deeper than they do. So that's not super deep. Especially with like small areas, you really don't need to carve out deep at all. So now I don't have like a large area of background to carve out, but I'll still show you what you can do for those large areas. So even though this isn't super large, I'll just show you on this. So first, as always, I'm going to go around the outline. And I'm going to have you guys practice first on just scrap pieces of linoleum. That way you can kind of get the hang of it before moving on to this block, because I'm not going to give you guys a second one. This is the only block you're going to get because linoleum's expensive. Okay, so I did mess up a little bit right there, and that is called an overcut. So when you cut a little bit further than you want to, then that's called an overcut. What I'm going to do is just try to fix my mistake. That's why I like to have my Sharpie by me. So I'm just going to turn this into a line to make it look like it was intentional. Okay, and now we can't really see that overcut. And I'm just going to widen the line on this side. Again, Sharpie test so that we can see what that will look like. Okay, And this should feel pretty easy to carve out. If it doesn't feel easy, that is probably because your blade is dull. So you can ask me to change out your blade for you, and I will give you a new one. So for a large area, what we're going to do is just kind of go in line like this. Just pulling off pieces in just an orderly fashion. And then another reason I really like the V shape is because it helps you kind of clean up the background. So we can use the slant of the V shape to just pull off the like larger ridges on our background. And some people also like to use the U shape to do this. You do want like this like outer edge, if you don't have any design on it, you want it to be pretty carved out because this is more likely to grab ink than like anything on the inside. So I might just use the big U shape to shave off those edges.